Here's three things that we learned from Man United's win against Brighton. Now, the first thing I've been saying for quite a while now, and that is that we've been looking so devoid in our chance creation. I think in this game, Casemiro looked like our best creator on the pitch, and that is not a good thing considering he was playing as our centre back. Brighton was set up so well defensively and allowed us nowhere near as much space as we got against a team like Newcastle, which meant that we reverted the type and ended up playing a lot of long balls. I think that our biggest threat on Brighton's goal was Garnacho's 1v1 ability against Moda. I think Moda would not have been able to keep up with him in that game, but unfortunately we could not get the ball to him enough. But the players didn't really look to find him in those situations. I think if we were able to exploit Garnacho's good 1v1 ability against Brighton's fullback, we would have had a lot more ability to create more chances and maybe a goal. As I said, I think Brighton's setup was really good today, and they really didn't allow us as much space, and they seemed to almost neutralise the potency that Ahmad and Manu had in the last game. I think there was a moment in the first half where they tried a 1-2, but unfortunately it did not work out, as there was simply not enough room for Ahmad to manoeuvre around the Brighton's defence. But I think that this improved when we saw the introduction of Rasmus Højlund. I think in the last two games when Højlund's been out of the team, we've been missing the presence of a true number 9. And when Højlund came onto the pitch, he was able to really stretch the Brighton defence by pulling players wide, allowing space for other players to run into. And you saw that Højlund was picking up a lot of positions on the wing, and that allowed players like Garnacho and Ahmad and Rashford to make infield runs and get into the box. I do also think that Brighton being a bit more tired towards the end of the game helped with this, but the introduction of Højlund clearly had a massive improvement on our playing style. And we saw that as we scored our two goals when Højlund was on the pitch. We saw Casemiro play that ball over the top and Dalot make that run from deep in behind. And he obviously scored with a beautiful finish. And that brings me on to my second point, which is the exciting development of Diogo Dalot this season. I think he's developed into a really all-rounded fullback this year, and there are a lot of question marks of his younger self in terms of his defensive ability. But I think again in the last two seasons we've seen a much better improvements on that. Yes, he's made some mistakes this year, but any defensive error he's made seems to have come when he's playing as a left back, and we all know that he naturally prefers the right hand side. I think in recent games he's kind of grown into the left back position and has kind of understood how to play this inverted role. I would not use this as a long term option, and I would like to see him get back onto the right hand side, and we can hopefully see the return of someone like Luke Shaw or Tyrell Malacia. But today he picked up a few good positions in the attack and in the build-up play, and obviously made a good few runs into the box, and one of them ended up being his goal. And we saw that again as well in the game against Newcastle, I'm pretty sure. So this wasn't just a one-off thing. Now, I'm a bit surprised that he hasn't really got as much recognition from other fans and from mainstream media, but I think he's probably arguably been one of the best fullbacks in the league this year. And I'd be happy to say that he's probably been our player of the season. All I'm going to say is that if this guy was an English lad, he would have received a lot more recognition for his performances this year. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, unfortunately, is not a positive, and is that I think that we need to be looking to sell Scott McTominay this summer. I think a lot of people have said he's had a good season because he's come up with a lot of crucial goals for us, and we have to be grateful for that. And no one can ever doubt his passion for the club. But unfortunately, I think that if we want to progress as a team, we have to be looking to sell him. I think that some of his technical ability isn't that good. I think obviously he's got a good finishing ability and can ghost into the box and come up and score big goals as he's done this year. But his overall technical ability isn't that great. You can notice some of his passing and touches are a bit sloppy, and there was a chance early on when he was through on goal, but his touch took him away and his shot went well over the bar. And in a game like that, in the first half that we were having, he should have put that chance away. There were a couple of times where I think that he broke down some of our attacks. I think the ball got into the box once and he took the shot away from someone else. And there was another time where he could have laid it off but took the shot on himself as well. Unfortunately, he's not really a young player anymore. And every year it seems that we've been saying that he's a young player who can still develop into someone great. But for the amount of years he's been playing football for, his development isn't there. I'm more worried about his poor reading of the game, especially in terms of build-up play. I don't think he knows how to unlock and exploit spaces in the midfield. And you can see that as he tends to pick up quite poor positions in build-up play. And there are times that maybe a player like Manu or Bruno Fernandes would have played a nice line-breaking pass or a good drive into some space, but Scott McTominay would instead choose a pass-back option. And I think for these reasons, we should be looking to move him on in order to evolve the team. I think those are some of the key points that we can learn from this game. So let's have a quick look at some of the player ratings. Andre Onana, I'll probably give him a 6. He didn't really have much to do. Wan-Bissaka, I'll probably give him a 5.5. I think he got done a couple times by their left back. I'd say Casemiro's probably a 7.5. I think in recent games that was his best performance today. Martinez, a 6.5. It's very good to have him back. Dalot, a 7.5. I think this season he has probably been our best player. Took his goal really well. Amrabat, probably a 5. Looked a bit sloppy today. Mainu, I'll probably give him a 6.5. For a young kid, he did end up showing his talent in what was ending up a tough game. Mctominay, I think, has to be a 4. I think a lot of our attacks broke down with him. Ahmad, probably a 6. Wasn't really involved in the game. Garnacho, probably give him a 6.5. Looked like our best attacker, but we couldn't really get him involved enough. And Bruno, I think, 5.5. Didn't really get involved enough either. I think Evans came on and helped steady the ship. I'll probably give him a 6. Hoyland, when he came on, helped stretch the Brighton defence and obviously got its goal. I'll give him a 7. I think Varane also made us look much more comfortable at the back. I'll give him a 6.5. And Rashford and Ericsson, I'll probably give them both a 6. I think it's very important that we're starting to see the likes of Varane and Martinez coming back from injury for that massive cup final against Man City. I think those are two key players returning in order for us to stand some sort of a chance against them. I think we all know that this season has been awful. I think it's probably our second ever worst Premier League season. But there are still some positives to be learnt. We are seeing the emergence of Garnacho, Kobe Mainu, Hoyland's fit is settling well into the team. Ahmad's done well in recent games. I think Dalot's had a brilliant season. I think there are so many young players in this team that we can build off and create a team around for the future. As I said previously, I think it's time for the players that we've seen at this club for a long time to be let out. And I think we need to go out in the transfer window, not just buy some hungry, younger players, but some players who are established serial winners to bring some winning mentality and experience into this team. Now, we're already seeing the likes of Iran leaving the club, which is a decision that I am not a huge fan of at all. I think even in that little cameo he had against Brighton, he shows his composure and class in this team. And I think despite some maybe shaky performances in recent games, we should definitely not be looking to sell Casemiro this summer. We need to get players of that sort of caliber and experience into the club because I think at this club there is a toxic loser mentality. And the only way to overhaul that is by bringing in some proven winners. And I think the main thing to realize is that if we do not have a massive clear out this summer, if we go into next season with players like Maguire, McTominay, maybe even likes of Rashford, we probably won't be able to see us having a chance of improving our performances next year.